Within the Socialist Party and among some of its friends, during the last few weeks, there has developed a movement to draft me for the presidential nomination at this convention of the party. I have, of course, been honored by the confidence of my friends, but I have wished to hold to my determination not to run, unless I should discover at the convention very grave reasons for reversing it. I have concluded that those reasons exist and have weight enough to warrant changing my decision. I shall therefore accept if nominated by the convention.
One might see this video and hear this audio and think that it takes place in one of America's major cities, New York, Chicago, or Los Angeles, the bastions of supposed American progressivism. However, it does not. This is video and audio from the 1948 Socialist Party of America's National Convention held in Reading, Pennsylvania.
For the presidential nomination at this Reading convention of the party.
In the United States, there are only two major political parties. It is easy to be left to believe that it has always been this way and could never be another. Even for those Americans who know of third parties in American history, their knowledge is often limited to Teddy Roosevelt's Bull Moosers or the populists of the late 19th century, or even just to the modern Libertarian Party. However, perhaps the least talked about one of the more successful third parties was the various iterations of the Socialist Party of the United States that existed from 1876 to 1972. Socialist ideas were especially popular among new German immigrants in the late 1800s, and in a predominantly Pennsylvania Dutch city that had been so heavily exploited by the effects of the Industrial Revolution, it was unsurprising that socialism gained a foothold in Reading, Pennsylvania. Reading grew at an incredible rate in the mid-1800s, doubling from 8,000 to almost 16,000 from 1840 to 1850, then doubling again to 33,000 in 1870. By 1890, the city had reached a population of almost 60,000. This population boom was a parallel to the nationwide and worldwide trends of the time. However, Reading's growth was chiefly owed to its location. As railroads took over the transportation industry, they looked to Reading as the natural connector between the coal-producing north of the state and Philadelphia. The Philadelphia and Reading Railroad laid its first track in 1833, connecting Reading to Philadelphia, then Reading to Pottstown. As the speediest and cheapest method of transportation, it gained a monopoly over the region's anthracite hauling. Because of the company's influence, it also quickly gained control over state and local politics. In 1865, the Pennsylvania legislature passed Act 228, authorizing the creation of private police forces by railroads, which would become the Coal and Iron Police, who acted as strikebreakers and abused workers. In 1871, the Philadelphia and Reading created the subsidiary Philadelphia and Reading Coal and Iron Company, buying out most of northeastern Pennsylvania's coal mines. In 1877, the Philadelphia and Reading's Coal and Iron Police arrested 10 members of the Molly Maguire labor organization for murder. President of both Philadelphia and Reading Railroad and Philadelphia and Reading Coal and Iron, Franklin B. Gowen, was named special prosecutor. All 10 were hanged. Later that same year, as railroad strikes swept the nation, the company, not the government, called out the Pennsylvania National Guard to Reading, who subsequently shot and killed 15 strikers, wounding over 30 more, guided by the Coal and Iron Police. Now it can be seen how Reading and the surrounding area had become so ripe for an alternative to the corrupt politicians who had continuously failed to take action against the companies who ruled the city. First to arrive in Reading were the Knights of Labor Union and the Greenback Labor political party. In 1880, the Knights of Labor held a successful rally on Penn Street. However, the Knights of Labor ceased to exist in 1886 and the Greenback Labor Party soon faded into obscurity. In 1901, the Socialist Party of America and the State Division of Socialist Party of Pennsylvania were established, the latter in Reading. Numbers of membership in Reading, the socialist capital of Pennsylvania, were relatively few. One party leader said that in the city of Reading, quote, less than 50 people admitted to being socialists at the time, and that, quote, our meetings were generally attended by from 6 to 10 members. In these early days, there was a clear split among socialists in Reading. There were the Christian socialists, who furthered the socialist cause because they believed that it was the most humane style of economics that adopts the humanist virtues of the Bible. The other group were the Marxist socialists, who believed in Marxist theory of history and who more so emphasized materialist analysis of the world. In either case, both groups agreed that socialism was a more humane economic system. Despite early intra-party conflicts, the two groups would eventually work together to create one of the most successful local third-party movements in the United States. The early years of the Socialist Party in Reading comprised of small-scale elections for offices such as election supervisors. They established even more local organizations, with each ward of the city receiving its own organizational structure within the party. The party then took out a risky mortgage on a rundown abandoned factory to serve as the SPP's headquarters in Reading. After months of extensive remodeling, the factory became what they dubbed the quote, Labor Lyceum. It served as a community hub with scientific, philosophical, political, and other seminars and presentations. It had a pool room and, on the bottom floor, a small cigar shop which produced Karl Marx branded cigars in order to pay for the mortgage and other party expenses. The Socialists of Reading set their sights on the elections of 1910. In preparation, they sent out speakers, pamphlets, and other circulars to promote their cause. It paid off as they elected James Hudson Maurer to the Pennsylvania House of Representatives. Maurer is inseparable from the socialist movement in Reading. He was of Pennsylvania Dutch descent and grew up working various jobs in Reading. He was a first-hand witness of the 1877 mass killing during the railroad strikes. He described that, quote, the air was filled with the crying of children, the hysterical sobs and shrieks of mothers and fathers, and the groans of the wounded and dying. Maurer stated, quote, I had looked on at a tragic act in the real drama of class struggle which I was soon to enter. He spoke at the Knights of Labor meeting in 1880. He was one of the 6 to 10 attendees of the early socialist meetings in Reading. He established a chapter of the SPP in Hamburg, Pennsylvania. In 1911 city elections, the Socialists elected 5 city council members and 39 other government officials. The Reading Eagle reported that 800 people had participated in the Socialist Party of Reading caucus that year. Maurer was re-elected to the state legislature in 1914 and 1916. However, the success of the 19 teens would be halted as the U.S. entered World War I. The party's anti-war stance made them targets of the Second Red Scare in the years during and immediately following the war.
Send the word over there.
Their popularity dropped significantly, and they had lost all of their government seats by 1919. Throughout the early 1920s, the Socialists continued to run candidates both locally and nationally, but they would not return to their pre-war success until 1927. In that year, they campaigned not on socialist theory or class consciousness, but local issues that they knew were important to the voting base. They elected John Henry Stump as mayor of Reading and other SPP members to 2 school board seats, 2 city council seats, and the office of city controller. In their first year, they purchased an old high school to replace the old crumbling city hall. This old high school is the same city hall that is still used in Reading to this day. In 1929, they swept every seat on the city council and gained 2 more seats on the school board. In 1930, Lilith Wilson and Darlington Hoops were elected to the Pennsylvania General Assembly. In Reading, the Socialist administration extended and improved the sewer system, rebuilt the water treatment facility so that sewage was no longer dumped into the Schuylkill River, and expanded the city's park system extensively. One such park was named Socialist Park and still stands today under the name Willow Glen Park. The 2 major national parties had at this point themselves become secondary choices to the people of Reading. The success of the Socialists in Reading scared them, so in 1931 and 1933 they combined their forces and endorsed the same candidates for the same positions, called the Fusionist ticket, all in order to defeat the Socialist Party's popularity. They succeeded and won back the mayorship in 1931, though both Lilith Wilson and Darlington Hoops were sent back to Harrisburg. However, in 1935 they split again in preparation for the upcoming mayoral election, this time ending in the Socialist Party's greatest election results in Reading history. They sent Stump back to the mayorship and won 3 of 4 city council seats, city treasurer, city controller, 3 seats on the school, a county commissioner seat, and 2 county prison inspectorships. This second administration utilized funds offered by the federal government under the New Deal to build Reading Airport and to build low-income housing which provided a place to live for 400 of Reading's poorest families. In 1939, the mayorship fell to Democrat Harry Menges, with the Socialists losing ground in most respects. This was the death of the Socialist Party in Reading, as Franklin Roosevelt's New Deal Democrats took much of the membership. The Democratic Party now became the most popular party in Reading. Also during this time, a split in the Socialist Party of America also found its way. The split was largely along generational lines, as the older generation, more moderate, disagreed with the more radical younger generation within the party, who wanted the party to express more outwardly communist beliefs. This older generation was nicknamed the Old Guard. The Old Guard officially split in 1936, naming themselves the Social Democratic Federation. John Stump was one of these Old Guardsmen. In 1943, the last death rattles of the Socialists in Reading occurred, as Stump was elected mayor again, though this time not under the Socialist Party of America, but on the Social Democratic Federation ticket. The Socialist Party of Reading, Pennsylvania was one of the most successful local third parties in U.S. history, and an overlooked piece of history.